everyone, Pineapple here with the finale of One Piece Season 2, the end of the Drum Kingdom arc, Dear and Loathing in Drum Kingdom. Okay, the titles have been mostly pretty clear references, but that one's got to be the most convoluted so far. Last time we spent our time wailing as we experienced Chopper's backstory, and we're ready to get our revenge on Wapol when he comes a-knockin'. Last we saw Dalton in some real trouble. Will this episode do well to cap off a pretty well done season? Let's see as we get into the episode. Carrying on from last episode, Dalton is brought to Wapol, who displays his fancy new devil fruit powers by ingesting a weapon and transforming his hand into said weapon. And Dalton finally takes a proper go at him using his devil fruit powers to transform into a bison man. And instead of taking a good shot or, say, trying to kick him while his hands are bound, he instead runs himself into Wapol's spear. Good job, buddy. Wapol also reveals that although he looks to be without an army, he has forces ready for regurgitation. And this is a pretty major difference from the original, but it is cleverly rooted there, Wapol originally having the ability to combine and spit out the people he eats, doing so to Chess and Kuromarimo to create Chess Marimo. So they've taken that idea and applied it to another force. Now this is mostly done so that there are stakes for those back in the village, attempting to make sure every character gets in on the action, and not just the ones up at the castle, and I think that it's a pretty clever move. A very good way to change the source material, but I'm not the biggest fan of the village part. No one really achieves anything there. The creatures are really only kept at bay. I mean, at least one or two of them actually being defeated by Dalton or Zoro would have made it feel a lot better. So on the whole, it's a very good change, but I do think they could have made it feel better. Also, the look of Wapol's powers is pretty well done. The CGI feels really well placed in and an interesting translation. Meanwhile, Miss All Sunday is here to pretty much just insult and belittle Vivi, and are both the performances good? Definitely. Will I take any more Robin scenes that I can get? Certainly. But I really don't get the agenda here. I don't really get her motives, so with both this and her interaction with Tashigi being both interesting but pretty much amounting to nothing, I really do hope these threads are tied up next season. Because while I could try and read into this interaction with what I know of Robin in the anime, the best I can come up with is that due to her backstory, it's Robin taking out her own feelings about her homeland onto Vivi. But it's not specific enough for me to be sure. So once again, a good idea that I just think needs some tinkering. Usopp and Zoro see the army of monstrosities approaching. I can't say their designs are interesting to me, but they are sufficiently grotesque. But Vivi heads up the mountain to warn Luffy of Wapol's return, while Usopp and Zoro, or Mr. Bushido as Vivi calls him, stay to protect the village. Nami's being doted on by Sanji, and I'm really impressed with the foresight that this series puts in. Sure, the things it's changed knowing the future of the story are well done, like Bartolomeo, but this is by far the best. It not only changes Sanji's actions to be informed by a backstory he wouldn't be given for years down the line, but the added emotions make for not only an interesting dynamic, but take full advantage of the story. As like in episode 6, Nami's sickness really affecting the crew. Not to mention the fact that Taz plays it fantastically as he opens up about his mother.
So, every meal I make him for her.
Luffy, as of course he would, ruins the touching moment, and Vivi warns them of the coming danger, Kureha deciding to fuck off, leaving Chopper with them when he refuses to leave the battle, knowing that people will be injured, so that he can do his duty as a doctor. His morals, we know, came from Hiruluk doing well to show the difference between the two doctors. During Kureha's said fucking off, she finds a limping Dalton absolutely ragged, slowly making his way to the village, and in a nice moment when he quotes Hiruluk back to her, she lashes out at him. But in the end, seeing his never-ending drive to save his people, much like Hiruluk, you can see when she actually starts to get emotionally affected, and while still cruel, starts to patch him up. While Vivi gets moved off her IV, Luffy dons her totally not about to be torn coat, and just as they plan to take off, Wapol saunters in from a secret entrance, going back to his strange, apparently mocking Southern Belle accent.
Princess Vivi of Alabasta.
apparently still pissed off with Vivi. I don't know why, dude. You're the one that smacked the shit out of her for no reason the last time that you met. We get a nice Luffy gag, but before a fight can start, Vivi gets her moment standing up to Wapol and giving him back that smack. Now this is a part of the finale that I do really like the change of and think was executed well. Sure, more Chopper versus Wapol would have been nice, but having Vivi fight him along with Luffy, even though not the main combatant, is a lot better. Not only to give her some more action and show off her bravery, but in a more general season arc sense, it just feels a lot better than having her mostly absent from the action as I recall from the anime. Now the climax splits into 3 major fights, so I'll talk about them one by one. First of all is the village confrontation. As I said before, while very much not my thing, I appreciate the style and physical effects of the creatures, but I guess my major problem is that it's just buying time. At this rate, it would have been easier to have the population lure the creatures away and just wait it out. Because sure, we get some good action moments, Usopp has some nice moments.
He's got a devil fruit? Does everybody have devil fruit now?
Even though cowardly, he does put up a bit of a fight, and Dalton along with Kureha makes some saves. I like Dalton's little talk with Zoro continuing from earlier on about his want to give his people a worthy leader, but the heroes here do diddly squat. I really appreciate they moved the story to give all characters something meaningful to do, but come on, it could have been a little more meaningful. Sanji's bickering with Chopper ensures they don't have enough time to escape, Chopper having to threaten beating his ass, but they're interrupted by Kuromarimo and Chess.
Oh shit!
Nami protected behind the overturned bed. First they fight split up, Chopper versus Chess, and Sanji versus Kuromarimo. Chopper's big design works well in the fighting, but there is a moment or two that just really don't work. Like Chopper launching Chess away after this face, ew. And when working together, Sanji's party table kick course is fine on impact, taking out Kuromarimo and Chess as a consequence, but the sort of choppy way they tried to convey his speed really doesn't work for me. But the ending as they celebrate and Nami has to snap them back to attention is really endearing. Now for the big fight, Luffy versus Wapol. The initial fight is pretty good, all the items around the throne room really helping sell the destruction, even if a lot of it is telegraphed quite obviously, but Luffy's initial attitude of confusion and indifference compared to Wapol's whining makes for some good laughs. Wapol attempts to cannonball Luffy, the cannon pouring out of his mouth looking great, and when Luffy can't stop him alone, Vivi comes in with those pinky wire slashes that really put me on edge. Come on girl, stop trying to shatter your littlest fingers. And she shuts Wapol's mouth, sending him flying. Her being so integral to the action, but of course Luffy getting the majority of the focus, working really well for the feel of the season. Wapol gets back up once Nami's group enters, Luffy protecting Hiriluk's flag when Wapol targets it. Sure, not having the spectacle of being on the top of the castle, but the emotional weight, especially between Luffy and Chopper, carries all the same. Luffy pretty much unscathed, only more resolute to kick Wapol's ass. Wapol is finally taken out, Luffy making him destroy his own throne, Chopper and Vivi holding him back. Oh, this is worse. She is still using her pinkies, but now with a force so great, Chopper is holding her back. Her finger bones have gotta be ground into dust by now. But the fight is ended as Sanji assists Luffy in sending Wapol flying out the window, and maybe even down the mountain. Sanji making sure we know this assist is his redemption for failing so utterly against Smoker in episode 1. Okay, that didn't really work as a character moment for me. It feels very random. I mean, I get what they were going for, his failure in the first episode, solved in the last episode. It's not really a negative. So the day is saved, the village is defended, Wapol's doctor slaves are free to heal the people. Later that night, the crew is reunited as everyone comes up to the castle through the passages, finding everyone resting while Nami was robbing Kureha's wardrobe. Dalton amazed at their win and is so moved to see Chopper again, he is brought to his knees to thank the crew for all they've done. Kureha getting sentimental again by waving their bills. Chopper's self-doubt is so strong he almost allows it to stop him from joining. It's really sad and well performed, but short-lived as Luffy's had enough and interrupts him, and this is definitely one of the scenes I don't think works as well in live action. I mean, it definitely isn't bad, it's just one of the rare times that I experience a scene and consciously recognize that it was done much better before. Chopper is so endearing, and wow, I think that's the first smile Zoro's cracked on this goddamn island. So Chopper agrees to join the Straw Hats, telling Kureha, who is more than a little angry at him leaving to travel the seas, intentionally insulting him, the look on her face so well communicating that she's lashing out because she's come to care for the little reindeer. The mix of brashness and care, her even sneaking his supplies to him later, played perfectly. Chopper uses the sled to create a fantastic visual and pull everyone to the going merry, and while it's overall a very good scene, I much prefer it from Dalton's perspective. I don't think he's seen Luffy's abilities before, and doesn't know all that Chopper can do, so imagine how shocked he is to see Luffy inhumanly stretching, and the rumours of the witch's way of travel proven in front of his eyes. Chopper is sad to be leaving home, his interactions with Usopp and Nami both really heartwarming, Usopp's relating to him especially. It's a really strong yet short scene for them. After a Rumble Ball reference to see Chopper off, Kureha decides to use Hiruluk's formula, his cure sent into the skies and causing cherry blossom-like snow to fall on the people, the castle's lights making the entire mountain and clouds resemble a cherry blossom tree. And my god, is it a beautiful visual in live action. The people, even that bitch Maria, feel instantly freer, and Chopper, recognizing what it is, starts bawling, only consoled when Zoro picks him up.
It's enough to make a grown man cry.
And I love the ensemble shot, everyone is enjoying themselves, but Sanji is just standing there alone and utterly bewildered. And you know why? Because I have a theory, it's probably because he's just been moved into a completely different spot from the last shot. He's probably stood there wondering,
How did I get here?
Kureha is moved to tears, performed well, and reveals Gold Roger as Gold D Roger when thinking on Luffy's name. Oh boy, as if teasing Gold Roger's son at the start of the season wasn't enough to get the theorists talking, this and the explicit mention of the Will of D will. Now, with the Drum Kingdom arc wrapped up, the season ends on 3 separate notes. First, although the Straw Hats are all happy and celebrating, when Vivi gets sad, they all reaffirm that they won't abandon her, they'll be with her to help her kingdom. So she decides to tell them the truth of Mr. Zero's identity. Secondly, Smoker and Tashigi hear bits of Crocodile's transmission, and hearing Straw Hats mentioned, they now know everything is pointing them to Alabasta. So that's where they decide to go, and thank god they don't do the out of context recording trope, because I was sure when I heard Mr. Zero's voice chop in and out say, the Straw Hats had Vivi, Smoker would be all like, oh, they kidnapped the princess. But they thankfully avoid that pitfall. And finally we see Mr. Zero in all his glory, Warlord of the Sea, Sir Crocodile, played by Joe Manganiello. The design on point, and he even blows Miss All Sunday's cover naming her as Nico Robin. Me knowing her backstory and seeing her young face on her wanted poster being depressed all over again. And the episode ends with Crocodile ready to take Alabasta on his way to get the One Piece, with a nice little Banana Doll cameo. So while I had my issues and it certainly wasn't as good as last episode, Dear and Loathing in Drum Kingdom was a pretty good episode, but what about the season as a whole? Well, the overarching story of course isn't over, continued in next season, and I think it was handled really well. Every story arc was well tied in, and the lack of concrete resolution in no way felt unsatisfying, like another show we looked at the first season of, Daredevil Born Again, that couldn't end a season well to save its life. Unless season 2 of that manages to pull it off. As for the Straw Hats, I feel like they were all really well explored this season, Sanji more so in this arc with Nami's sickness, Nami and her relationship with Vivi and her feelings for the first 2 episodes, Zoro was really well explored in episode 3, Usopp gaining major props from me in the Little Garden arc, so the only character I think failed to really evolve as a character was Luffy. I felt like some of his writing was too cartoonish here and there, ironic, but he still had really strong moments like with Laboon, against Bucky and Miss Golden Week, and his perseverance this arc to get Nami help. As for the villains, Baroque works will live on, but the minor characters were all played well, some like Mr. Nine felt even more impactful than in the original. And while characters could always return next season, it seems like a fair few properly died, really upping the stakes of the assassin group targeting the crew, and for god's sake they better continue with this and fix Pell next season. Either just kill him or change around the circumstances so that he doesn't have to die. And you know what? Bring back Igaram, just so that when she returns home a majority majority of her loved ones aren't dead. Crocodile looked great, but I'll save my proper judgment until next season, and while I didn't always understand her purpose, Robin is played excellently. In fact, you know what? Pretty much every main actor was stellar this season. Props to them all. The adaptation of the story and sets, while having issues, were pretty much fantastic. Nothing actually pissing me off like Arlong Park last season. In fact, this season's episode 7, conversely, was a 10 out of 10. But character-wise, if one thing annoyed me, it's that coming as a story arc that continues next season in Alabasta, Smoker and Tashigi will of course appear again, but unlike the Marines last season, they were barely in this season. Only in episodes 1 and 2, 6, and basically a cameo this episode. I understand that they can't get too far for the sake of the plot, but come on, if you're gonna have a Marine B-plot, it needed a little more interest. Overall, One Piece Season 2 Into the Grand Line builds greatly off of Season 1, and having far less problems than the last season certainly earns a better score. So I'll give the live-action One Piece series Season 2 Into the Grand Line a 9 out of 10. This is a really good season both on its own and as an adaptation, and I'm hoping that Season 3 will be just as good. My early prediction though is that because it will have less variance, being all on Alabasta, it'll probably only get a 9 out of 10 from me, but only because compared to Season 1 and 2, it will be a very different beast. And I don't want to consider the possibility of moving this and Season 1 scores down by half a point, to make the scores scale better. Thank you everybody for watching my review of Season 2 of One Piece. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, ring the notification bell so you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.